Hello Portsmouth and welcome back to another episode of our show. It is so good to be back and we have our audience, the crew are ready, and I'm going to head down to the studio to join my co-host. Isn't that right, Charlotte?
That's right, Helen, and what a show we have for you this week. We'll be bringing you up to date with all the latest around the UK's only island city. Now, audience, are we ready for what we've practiced? Yeah. On the count of three. 3, 2, 1, this is Portsmouth. We're live in the University of Portsmouth's Eldon Hub studio, bringing you useful, heartwarming and even life-changing stories about some of the amazing things you can find right here in Portsmouth.
Sounds good to me. And can I just say, it is so lovely to be here doing this show. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good, Helen. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling amazing just being in the studio space.
Yeah, it's really exciting to be here with you, new co-presenter, and our lovely studio audience, of course, which we need to tell them what's coming up in today's show, don't we?
Yeah, let's do it. We speak to academics from the Tactile Universe project about their unique 3D printing initiative that supports the visually impaired.
We take a trip to Groundlings Theatre to discover its history and the unique opportunities it provides for the local community.
And we also have a visit to Old Portsmouth and the Hot Walls, a space that is helping artists flourish.
I'm really looking forward to seeing that one, to be honest. Although I was never really good at art at school because I didn't get along with the teachers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were always a bit sketchy.
I seriously hope it isn't going to be one of those afternoons. But before all that, we'd like to introduce you to an inspiring footballer whose life-changing experiences hasn't deterred his love for the game.
Always been just football mad anyway in general. Like, I've played for my regiment in the army, playing football for that and playing all the time. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm a local lad, obviously, and I did college, and then I didn't know what I was going to do. I left college at sort of 17. I was doing like just different jobs, working in garages, being a cleaner, painting, just whatever I could get my hands on to earn some money. And then obviously I was like, right, I want to have some stories to tell when I'm an old man, you know. So I applied for the army. I only planned to do 4 years, which is like the minimum service amount. A lot of people say that, but you join the services and actually it's a nice way of life. At the end of the month, you've gone around the world and done different things, and loads of places around, obviously Arizona, Canada, and obviously Afghanistan as well. The search dog found an IED, like it made his sign to the owner, say they sniffed out an IED, had found an IED. And then we're like, right, we're going to push round and call in a team to come and disarm it. I think it's Brimstone. All I remember is walking along, and next thing I know, I was on my backside and like dust everywhere. And I was like a little bit disorientated. And I looked in front of me, and the people in front of me were looking towards me. So I thought, oh, it must be someone behind me, like the guys behind me. So I looked around, and again, people were looking towards me. And then, like, also all the old Vietnam War films, don't look down at your legs, man. So the first thing I did was look down, and I'm like, my right boot wasn't there. It wasn't there. Even since losing my leg, didn't really know where I stood for playing football. And obviously being a below knee, I can sort of play. There's nothing I can play football anyway now that stops me. So massive part of my life. And obviously, it's gone on to my son now. So which is like a dream, a blessing for me because he is obsessed with football. He's 9 years old and he knows more about football than I do now.
My mum doesn't like me playing football in the lounge, but my dad lets me off When he started playing amputee football, I started to get the passion of football, and I want to follow the footsteps of my dad.
Football has brought us all together. We all have like a common factor in our life that is similar, so we've all got a similarity, although we're not similar people, if that makes sense. We've all got some common ground to go off for the first meeting, and then we grow from there.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep playing as long as I can until I can't do it anymore. Because I've got friends at my age that have already retired completely, able-bodied, and I'm just disabled still playing, which I think that's the testament to how good these legs are nowadays.
What an incredible story, and thanks again to Chris for sharing it with us.
Indeed, and it just goes to show that anything really is possible. Following on from Chris's story, we've invited over a professor who delivers strength and conditioning to sports people with missing limbs. Thank you so much for joining us today. Would you please introduce yourself and explain a little bit about what you do and what strength and conditioning means?
No problems. Thanks for having me in. So my name's Chris Bundell. I work as a strength and conditioning coach, working with athletes across multiple sports, and I also teach strength and conditioning at the University of Portsmouth. I suppose the reason you've got me on here today is because my background training athletes in a variety of sports, but namely para sports. So basically, what strength conditioning is it is the preparation of athletes for sport using non-sport specific training. So, for example, I work with a sports coach. So, say I'm working with a basketball team. My job would not be to coach the basketball, but it would be to prepare the athletes better so they can do the sports practice more efficiently or to a higher level. And you do that by working on a few things such as strength, power, speed, resilience. You might do a bit of rehab or a bit of injury prevention type work. And yeah, that's basically what I do.
How has this helped in developing sport practices for amputees?
No worries. So any good strength conditioning coach essentially needs to have a good understanding of the underlying principles that are going to improve an athlete's performance from a strength conditioning perspective. Now, there is some limited research out there that will guide a practitioner working with athletes with injuries or missing limbs, such as the phenomenon where you can train one side of the body and the other side that isn't trained due to injury or something else will still have a positive response to the training the other side. Now, that combined with there's a lot of information about there being imbalances between each side, and that might be a possible link to injury. Now, obviously, working with athletes with missing limbs or abilities on one side that are pronounced, you're essentially always going to have some sort of imbalance, and it's learning how to best cope with those so that they don't affect the athlete's performance too much, whilst still giving them the resilience benefits of training, essentially. And it's basically just a case of trial and error, really, which is using these underlying principles, taking those and working with someone and seeing what works, really. I've had some things that work with one athlete that won't work with another. So whilst I can use these underlying principles and information that we know, you really do have to see what's the best fit with the person you're working with.
So the World Cup is on at the moment, Chris. Do you see amputees participating in such tournaments with the future development of technology?
I think the main exposure of sport with these participants is it comes down to public interest more than anything else. So I think we're seeing a lot more due to the fact that technology is making these sports more accessible for the viewers at home and for those interested in these sports. And I think that's where the main driver comes from. And now I think we all know that the more exposure these sports get, the more funding there is for these. Money coming from sponsorships and TV deals, etc. I think that's probably going to be the main driver behind development within within these sports, really.
How can our viewers benefit from knowing more about this particular kind of training?
Mostly because at the minute, people that go to the gym tend to train in ways that aren't necessarily going to produce the adaptations they're after. I know, I know for a fact when I walk into a gym, I see a lot of people training like bodybuilders that don't actually want to look like bodybuilders. I see people training like marathon runners that don't necessarily want to run marathons. And actually, what people are seeking is a lot of the times they're seeing these athletes in sports, and that's the type of physique or performance they want to replicate, but they're not training in ways that would replicate or they wouldn't produce the adaptations that are going to make you more athletic, essentially. Now, strength conditioning usually has been reserved for athletes. Now, it is making its way into the general population where people are training more for performance. Now, if people can seek that out as a style of training, where you're training to be a little bit more athletic, for me, it's better long term because it will produce better health benefits. Usually, help people for longevity in terms of remaining pain free, staying mobile, maintaining a bit of speed within their step. It's amazing how many people play sport up until they're 22, 23, and then stop playing sport, and then all of a sudden, things start to hurt. They get slow, they get weaker, but what they're doing is they're training in ways that aren't really stopping that from happening. Whereas, actually, what we want to do is sort of prevent the decline when people are getting older, and train in a way basically that makes people feel better rather than sort of making people sore and tired, really.
Thank you so much again for your time, Chris, and I really want to wish you good luck with the rest of your work.
No problems. Pleasure for coming on.
I'm sure it'll bring some intriguing developments. Now, Helen, how much do you know about 3D printing?
Well, it's printing in 3D, isn't it?
Well, there's actually a lot more to it than that, as Dr. Nicholas Bon at the university's Institute of Cosmology and Gravitation proves, with his amazing work in supporting the visually impaired connect with the stars.
I'm somebody who has a pretty severe vision impairment. I was born with that, but I've always wanted to be an astronomer, so that's sort of been my lifelong dream. I grew up in a relatively rural part of Australia, so lots of dark skies, easy to go outside, look at the night sky, see the Milky Way, see everything like that. For me, obviously, when I go outside at night, I can't see quite as much, but because it was so clear and so dark in Australia, I could make out the occasional thing in the night sky. So my name's Dr. Nick Bon. I'm an Outreach and Public Engagement Fellow working at the Institute of Cosmology and Gravitation at the University of Portsmouth. In particular, I lead a project called the Tactile Universe, and in that project we're looking at ways that we can communicate some of the more visual aspects of astronomy to people who are blind and vision impaired. It actually took somebody asking me what would have made my PhD research into galaxies easier to do. And my almost instant response was, if I could have felt the galaxy images rather than looking at them, it would have been so much easier. And so, yeah, this idea of making sort of tactile images that people could feel instead of seeing sort of started off there.
Nick was talking with our advisor in their office, which was right across the hall from my office. I was a little bored that day, procrastinating doing other work. And I have a little bit of experience working with a 3D modeling program called Blender. And I started thinking of various ways I could actually use that to create the 3D models that he was talking about. So over the course of about the next 3 hours, I sat down and just figured out how to do it. Made a small little video clip, sent it off to Nick and Karen, and we're just like, is this what you were talking about? 2 days later, they found someone within the faculty who had a 3D printer, and there was a 3D model sitting on my desk.
The way the tactile models work is we take just a regular telescope image of something like a galaxy. We have a bit of computer code that plugs into a 3D modeling software called Blender, and it basically creates a 3D surface, and it models the brightness in the image. So where there's more light, where the pixels are whiter, we have a more raised surface. Where it's darker, we have a less raised surface. And so basically you have this relief map that traces that change in brightness. You can basically use your fingertips to interpret the shape of the image the same way that your eyes would if you were looking at that. You can feel which bits are bright, which bits are dim. You can get a sense of all that detail. These things are really beautiful. Galaxies are some of the most beautiful things in the universe, I think, and these tactile images do a pretty good job of getting that sense of wonder across, but in a different way.
You know, one of the things that we've learned along the way is as soon as you take something, you make it more accessible for one group of people, you've instantly made it more accessible to everybody. We found it helps a lot when we're talking to the public about galaxy evolution, just have something in their hands that they can play around with and feel as we're talking through how the science works. And we get a lot more engagement that way, and really helps in that sense.
One of the main goals of the project is to get these resources out to as many young people who are blind and vision impaired in the UK as we possibly can. So we develop workshops that we can run in schools. The idea there is to raise aspirations, to inspire young people, to show them that there are different ways that they can access things. And that's just a really nice way of helping everybody else, I guess, everyone understand each other, everyone see how we can do things a little bit differently.
This is such a fascinating topic, and to discuss the 3D printing process further is Nick's colleague, Dr. Coleman Kravchik. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me today.
So let's dive in straight away. We've heard briefly the process of developing tactile images, but could you further explain the process from finding the image to creating the 3D print?
Yeah, so what we decided to do was work with data that the team was already familiar with. So on that count, we decided to work with Sloan Digital Sky Survey data. So this is an optical survey, so if your eyes were good enough, this is what you would see if you were to look up in the night sky and see these galaxies. And in particular, we decided to go for both the red light and the blue light coming from each of the galaxies. So I brought here an example of the galaxy M51. So this is what the model looks like in the blue or the red light. And this is what it is in the blue light.
Thank you.
And on the back side of each of these models, we have the original telescope data that was used to take the image, so that regardless of anyone's level of vision, they can either use the tactile surface on one side, just the image on the other side, or a combination of both of them for however they feel comfortable using them.
Wow, thank you. What results have you seen after introducing these tactiles?
So when we bring these into the classrooms, we've gotten amazing feedback from all the students that we've worked with. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure in all of our lesson plans is they would work well in mixed classroom settings. So throughout the UK, most blind and vision impaired students are in mixed classrooms. They are not in specialist schools. So we wanted to make sure that they felt included within their class setting. So we made sure that all of our activities, every student in the classroom is doing the same activity with all of the same materials. So everyone's working together as a team on our projects.
Yeah, awesome. How has it helped the visually impaired with their take on the universe?
So it's definitely helped bring this topic to them in general. So a lot of students that we've worked with have said that they now want to go study science once they leave primary school or secondary school, and they actually want to learn more about the topic, understand what's going on. So one of our main goals and what we're starting to see is we wanted to make sure that they understand that this isn't closed off to them, that even though this might seem like a very visual topic, it is something that is accessible. On the research end of it, we mostly work with data on a computer. We almost never look directly at the galaxy images, so it is something that is accessible, and we want to get that message out there.
Yeah. Is it possible to see these tactile images for other subjects like painting?
So the way that these tactile images are created is we take any black and white image. So the code that we wrote can take any black and white image and create this type of tactile model. It takes all of the white areas and raises them up, the black areas and lowers them down. So anything that where that light profile matches the information they want to get across, this would work very well. But if you take like a picture of someone's face, the shadows on their face aren't necessarily the high and low points of the face, so it wouldn't really work so well in that case. So depending on the type of data, this can work well. And we have seen other groups start to use this in other areas of science as well.
Amazing. So, Nick mentioned in the VT about making these more accessible to young people who are visually impaired and blind. What are future plans for this concept?
So for future plans, we've started a secondary project called the Audio Universe, where we're going to try to add audio data into the tactile data as well. So thinking of different ways that you can audify and sonify scientific data to make it more accessible in that direction. So we have some colleagues up in Nottingham that we're working with closely. And also within our own department, we are starting to work with the gravitational waves group. So we're going to take these tactile models and rather than talk about galaxy evolution, help explain what gravitational waves are.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. That has been a fantastic insight. And thank you so much for bringing these prints today and talking with us. Where has my co-host got to?
I'm over here, Helen, with our lovely studio audience. How are we doing, guys? Yeah. Let's check in with one of the audience members. So, how did you find that 3D printing interview?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I didn't know there were so many uses for 3D printing and how it could be helpful.
Yeah, and how did you find the show so far?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I've learned a lot about a range of things.
Cool. Well, there's a lot more in store where that came from, as it's time to visit Hot Wall Studios to discover an art exhibition celebrating artists from different backgrounds right here in Portsmouth.
Each year, Pompey locals gather around Hot Walls, where artists display their work directly to the public. They come together for the colors, the tactiles, and the love of local art.
Portsmouth has a huge art community. There are so many art organisations, independent artists, so many different art platforms, and there's so many different events that sort of bring them together.
It's so much better to have a market out there. It's made a lot more people come to the area. It's great.
The culture is it's vibrant. There's lots of events. It's wonderful. It's a young people's place, isn't it?
This is my favourite event. I did this last year. I'm back again this year. I just love Hot Walls area, all of the studios, and just this little creative hub. It's just, events like this will really help my business and really help me continue to be a creative in the city as well.
Yeah, it's really great for the city, I think. And we came last year and really liked it.
For many of these artists, it's one of their best opportunities to grow their independent business and the chance for the community to support them.
Having kind of markets and fairs on around in the community is an important way to kind of showcase up-and-coming talent and support independent businesses as well, and it gives shoppers the opportunity to buy something that's special and unique that you can also find in a shop.
I've done a few sort of markets in Portsmouth now, and it's really helped grow the business, and it's really good to meet other designers and other creators here.
Because quite often a lot of sales are done online and everything now, and you don't get to actually meet the person and have that sort of personable interaction with them.
It's so lovely. So I've been doing this market since it first started, and I see the same people every year, and I know people by name, so locals come, they really support their local artists as well. It's amazing.
There is a sense of hopefulness about the future of local art markets in Portsmouth, as long as artists have the space to shine.
The people from Portsmouth get to see what real local artisan crafts and handcrafted work can be like.
And I think it gives us a platform to be able to be seen. There's an awful lot of talent in Portsmouth, whether they're potters, artists, musicians, poets, and we need an opportunity to be able to show our work.
It's so lovely to see such a heartwarming community support each other. What do you think?
Definitely. I think it's really important, especially at a time when a lot of people are really struggling. Community can really kind of bring us together and support everyone.
Absolutely. It's these small things that just make this island city so great.
Indeed, it seems like Portsmouth really is the city that keeps on giving. Ask me how, Helen.
How, Charlotte? Go on, tell me.
It's given a chance for the visually impaired to see the universe.
That's right. Portsmouth is also giving more support and research to amputees wanting to play sport.
There you go, you got what I'm getting at. But there's just one more act of giving for today's episode.
The Groundlings Theatre is giving the public the unique opportunity to work in a successful drama school. But is all that about to change? Let's find out.
Groundlings Theatre, I would say, is a jewel in the crown of Portsea. It was originally a meeting house. It was built in 1784 by merchants who got together and decided that they wanted somewhere to meet. The name Groundlings comes from the audience in Shakespeare's play back in the 16th century. They were the audience that stood at the bottom of the stage and heckled the actors, and they were known as the Groundlings.
I think it's a unique experience. Groundlings provide for the community a unique theatre experience. You'll go to a theatre, you'll get your seat and everything else. But here you can sit round tables. You can gather your family around you and feel a good Victorian Christmas experience that you won't get at other theatres. Particularly, we've just done Poppy Red, which had our audience all around us, so that we were encompassing them in the story, and you could feel it because there was not a sound in that theatre. You never heard a cough or anything, that they actually felt we are part of this play. So I think it provides that unique experience.
I think it's very important to the area because it provides a focal point for people to meet. It gives people the opportunity to enjoy theatre at less expense than some of the larger theatres in Portsmouth.
There's so much history in this place, and I don't think they do realise that this is the hidden gem. That, you know, this has been here so long. So I think they need to come here and embrace the building and enjoy the building very much. So that's what our future is, and I think it's got a great future.
The Groundlings Theatre, yes, it is a charitable trust now, and the trust are obviously working extremely hard to ensure that Groundlings Theatre, this building, continues to flourish.
So we are relying now on a lot of funding, which we hope can, you know, really keep this building what it was. The vision is there, and with vision and with passion, and you know, you can do things. You can get the funding. You can get people to come in, and they want to come in.
It's so rewarding being able to showcase and highlight underrepresented groups and individuals with the show, and hidden gems like Groundlings really do prove it. I hope the building does continue to support our community.
That's right. I personally didn't know about Groundlings Theatre before I saw this, so I look forward to taking a trip down there.
Definitely. You know what? I think I'll join you. But unfortunately, that is all we have time for today on today's show.
We'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us, as well as our live studio audience! You've all made this episode extra special.
And of course, we couldn't have done it without the incredible short stories that you shared today. So a big thank you to all our contributors. We've had so many inspirational stories, haven't we, Helen?
Oh, absolutely. I'm feeling really inspired, and I hope you, the audience, are feeling this too. Yeah!
Tune in next week for one more show where we reveal, uncover and present more fantastic stories going on around our island city. But until then, I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Helen.
And this is Portsmouth.